Okay, good morning students. So I am now going to discuss to you the lesson 1 of our subject, Assessment of Learning 1. And now we are going to discuss the commonly used terms in testing. So if ever you are going to hear any background noise for this from this video, just ignore it and then focus to my voice. Okay? So in our lesson for today, I know it's a little bit late to discuss this one because it should be discussed on the second week of the semester, okay, based on our syllabus. But ang importante is ma-discuss na ko ni because it's very important for you as a future teachers to know these terms and to kini ang naamoy knowledge about these terms, okay? So we have our learning objectives. We only have two. The first one is to familiarize the description of the terms commonly used in testing, and the second one is to evaluate sample situations, whether it is a test, a measurement, assessment, or evaluation. Okay, so now we have here 4 terms, and now we are going to discuss it by its definition and how these terms are used in assessment. Okay, the first one is we have test. So what is test? It is an instrument designed to measure any characteristic, quality, ability, knowledge, or skill ni student. Okay, so it is comprised of item in the area it is designed to measure. Let's say for example, in an exam, mayroon tayong item number 1 or question number 1, item number 2, so on and so forth. So there are also other types of tests, quizzes, exams, essays, yung mga activities na para ginagamit ni teacher para to measure yung learning ni students, no? And also another example of a test is yung oral questioning, yung nagpapa-oral si teacher whether during the discussion or after the discussion of a lesson. Just to measure if si student ba nasabtan niya ang lesson. Okay? So that is test. So it's very simple. It's very easy to remember. Test is an instrument designed to measure any characteristic, quality, ability, knowledge, or skill. Okay? The next term that we have is a measurement. So what is measurement? A process of quantifying the degree. When we say quantifying, we talk about numbers here. When we say quantifying, we will talk about numbers. Again, measurement is a process of quantifying the degree to which someone or something possesses a given trait, okay? Namely, quality, characteristics, or feature, okay? So it is also assigning of numbers to a performance, product, skill, or behavior of a student based on a predetermined procedure or set of criteria. So let's say for example, nagpa-perform si teacher ng role-playing about history of the Philippines or sa life ni Jose Rizal or sa Katipunan Bakaha, nagpa-roleplay si teacher, and then based from that performance, ni-grade ang performance nila students using a rubric, and then nakakama up si teacher of score nga 9/10. So this now, a measurement now is assigning numbers to the performance of the students. So yung 9/10 natin, that means yan na yung score or yung points na nakuha nila students based from their performance nga ilahang gi-perform. So that is measurement in assessment. Okay? Okay, it is also assigning of numbers to the results of a test or other types of assessment. Let's say for example, nag-exam mo, ang imong kuha is 50 correct answer out of 70 questions. So that is measurement. Naghatag ta og numbers or scores sa performance sa ato ang estudyante. That is measurement. It is also awarding of points for a particular aspect of an essay or performance. Okay, the same lang gihapon siya. Assigning of points giving points to the performance of the students. Now let's move forward to the third one. The term is assessment. No? Assessment. What is an assessment? Assessment is a process, even though assessment can be defined both a process or a product, but now let us focus on the process of the process na definition sa assessment. So, assessment is a process of gathering information about students' learning and then analyzing and interpreting them for the purpose of making decisions. Okay, again, assessment is a process of gathering information. So it happens from test to measurement. So when we are testing our students, when we are testing the capabilities, the abilities or skills of our students, then after testing is nagbigay tayo ng score. Ang tawag doon sa process na yon is assessment. So it happens from test to measurement. Okay? So assessment is a prerequisite to evaluation. When we say prerequisite to evaluation, we cannot have evaluation of students' learning unless we have done an assessment to our students. Okay? Why is it prerequisite? It is because assessment provides information which enables evaluation to take place. Again, we cannot have evaluation of student learning unless we have an assessment. And again, assessment is a process of gathering information about students' learning. It happens from test to measurement. Okay? So that is assessment for you. Okay? And now we have our last topic, our last term, evaluation. So after assessment, si teacher magbibigay na ng judgment. That means he or she is going to have an evaluation of student learning. So evaluation is a process of making judgments about the quality of a performance, product, or product of skill or behavior of a student. So when we are going to make judgment based on the assessment that we made to our students, that is already evaluation of student learning. Okay? It includes some basis to judge worth or value. Now, yung basis natin in making judgment here in evaluation is yung result ng ating assessment sa ating estudyante. Okay? Yung basis is yung result ng ating assessment sa ating estudyante. So that is our basis in making judgment during evaluation. So again, it involves judgment about the desirability or changes in the students. So after evaluation or using evaluation, hibaluan nato if si student ba naka-learn sa imuhang klase or wala ba siya naka-learn, or ang imuha bang strategy, teaching strategy ba nimo effective ba siya for this lesson, or kinahanglan ba nimo siya i-modify or i-change ang imong strategy or ang imong method para mas masabtan o maayo sa imong estudyante. So that is the purpose of evaluation. You are going to make judgment about the student's learning based on the assessment that you have made to your students. Okay? Again, using evaluation, makahibalo ta whether si student nakasabot or wala kasabot based sa assessment nga atong gibuhat. Okay? So, that's it. So, in interpreting the assessment, we have these two types of interpreting the results of our assessment to our students. The first one is the norm, and the second one is the criterion reference. So we have here the norm and criterion reference interpretation. So let's talk about the first one. See, norm reference assessment is a type of assessment designed to provide a measure of performance that is interpretable in terms of an individual's standing in some known group or yung norm group. Okay? So, again, it is interpretable. You have to remember this one. It is interpretable in terms of an individual's standing in some known. Okay, again, norm reference assessment is interpretable in terms of an individual standing in some known group or yung norm group, yung tawag natin dyan. So, it is the comparison of an individual's progress with the performance of a specified group. So, we are going to compare yung knowledge or skills ni students against sa knowledge or skill sa iyahang sa class or sa classmate niya in which he or she belongs. Okay? Let's say for example, si student 1, ang iyahang performance or ang iyahang unsa ni ang iyahang scores, iyahang performance, iyang knowledge or skills atong i-compare sa performance or knowledge or skills sa iyahang mga classmates or sa iyahang klase or sa iyahang section. So that is norm reference assessment. Again, student 1, performance ni student 1 versus performance of the whole class or yung classmate niya or yung group na nabilong si student 1, yung norm group dyan. Okay? So let's say for example here, we have a 50-item exam of a certain class. Okay? So, kini nga section, naalang siya napulo ka estudyante. Let's just say, for example, napulo lang siya ka estudyante. Now, si student 1, out of 50 item nga exam, nakakuha siya og 46. Okay? Si student 2, nakakuha siya og 45. Si student 3, nakakuha siya og 41. Si student 4, student 5, student 6, and student 7, silang upat, nakakuha og 39. Si student 8, student 9, si student 10, silang tulo nakakuha og 35. Now, how we are going to interpret this scores of our students using norm reference assessment. So, this is how you are going to interpret this. So, based on their scores, no? Based on their scores of the 10 students, we can say that student 3 performed better than 70% of the class. How did we get the 70% of the class? Now remember that we have 10 students in this class. Okay? Tulo, ang isa nakakuha og 46, ang isa nakakuha og 45, ang isa nakakuha og 41. Ang upat nakakuha og 39, ang tulo nakakuha og 35. Now, how did we get the 70%? Now, if you are going to look at here, student 4, 5, 6, upat, nakakuha og 39, 8, 9, and 10, tulo nakakuha og 35. So, kining pito, nakakuha sila og scores nga lower than 41. Lower sa score ni student 3. So, pito, 7, out of 10, that is 70%. So, that means, student 3 performed better than 70% of the class. Okay? 70% of the class. So, that is one interpretation for this scores that we have here, ang atuang example sa atuang students. We can also say pod nga student 1 got student 1 performed better than 90% of the class because iyang score is mas taas kaysa sa siyam ka estudyante nga naa sa napulo ka estudyante sa usa ka klase. Okay? And we can also conclude or say that student 3 is an above average student. Now, how did we get here? How did we get this above average student na conclusion? Okay? So, we have here scores of our students, 46, 45, 41, upat ka 39, upat ka 35. Now, if we are going to add all their scores, that would result to a sum of 393. Okay? So, 393 divided by 10 ka-estudyante. So, we have 39.3. So, that is now our average score of the class. So, we are going to round it off. Ang average score natin is 39. Now, back to our conclusion here or yung judgment na binigay natin. So, si student 3 daw is an above average student. Why? Because student 3 got 41 in the 50 item exam, in which yung average score lang in this class is 39. So 41 is greater or is greater than 39. That means ang 39 nato is average score of the class. That means student 3 is an above average student. Okay? So we can also say, or we can also make judgment that student 4, 5, 6, and 7 are average students. Why? It's because they only got 39 na score, in which it is the average score of the class. So they are average students in terms of their scores in this particular exam. Okay? And we can also say that student 8, 9, and 10 are below average. Why? Because 35 is below 39. That means below sila sa average score. That means they are also a below average student in this exam that they have performed. And we can also say, nga, si student 1 is the best among the class. Kasi nga, siya yung pinaka-highest. So, again, norm reference assessment, we compare the skills, the knowledge, or the performance of a certain student to a norm group. Yung norm group dito is yung classmate niya or yung klase, yung section. Okay? So, yung gi-compare nato, let's say for example, i-compare nato ang performance ni Lungay versus sa performance sa iyahang classmates. Okay, nakuha? Another example, and I hope you can relate to this one. So I have here a screenshot of my my game in Mobile Legend. So nakadaog mi ani na tsambahan, okay? But look at here. Ito. So nakalagay dito, naka-indicate dito that I have surpassed 46.5% of the players. So we have 10 players in this game, 5 from our team, and then 5 from our opponent. So again, I have surpassed, based on my performance in this game, I have surpassed 46.5 players. That means I have performed well, I have performed better against or versus those other 4 players in the group. And again, we have here an average score of the game of 5.4 and meron akong 6.2 na score. That means I am an average player during this game. Okay? So that is norm reference. That is another example of norm reference na interpretation. Okay? So again, we compare one student's performance to the norm, to the performance of the norm group or yung performance ng isang class or isang specified na group. Okay? So that is norm reference interpretation or norm reference assessment. Now the next one we have is the Criterion Reference Assessment. So what is the Criterion Reference Assessment? It is a type of assessment designed to provide a measure of performance that is interpretable in terms of a clearly defined and delimited domain of learning task. Again, interpretable in terms of a clearly defined and delimited domain of learning tasks. Okay? So, Criterion reference also is, it is usually with a mastery or competency point. Now, ang kalahian ni Norm and ni Criterion reference, again, si Norm, gina-compare nato ang performance ni student sa performance sa iyahang classmates or sa klase nga nabilong siya or sa batch niya. Okay? In Criterion Reference Assessment, hindi natin ginagawa yan. So what we are comparing here is the student's knowledge or performance or skills against a predetermined standard, learning goal, performance level, or other criterion. So hindi natin kino-compare yung performance ni students sa performance ng ibang students or sa isang klase. Okay, again, we are not comparing our students' performance to the performance of the whole class. We are comparing the students' performance, scores, knowledge, or skills against a predetermined standard, learning goal, performance level, or other criterion. Okay? So that is the difference between a norm and a criterion reference. Now, let's say, for example, in a criterion reference assessment, we have here a 100 item exam which consists the following. So we have here, ito yung competency or yung domain natin na dapat ma-meet or kini ang naaani nga 100 item nga exam. Say for example, in domain 1 or competency 1, we have 25% nga naaani sa 100 item nga exam. Si domain 2 na ay 30%, domain 3 na ay 15%, domain 4 na ay 30% for a total of 100%. Now, ang standard natin dito is 75% na passing score. So, si student, kinahanglan siya makakuha og 75% of among these competencies, no? Nga total competency percentage ani nga exam para makakuha siya og passing nga score. So that is now our standard, no? Diri nato i-compare ang performance ni student, dili nato siya i-compare sa performance sa other students. Again, criterion reference, i-compare nato ang performance ni student against sa standard or sa competency level nga ato ang giset for them. Okay? So, for instance, si student 1 got the following in this 100 item exam. In domain 1, nakakuha lang siya og 12%. In domain 2, nakakuha lang siya og 20% out of 30. Sa domain 3, nakakuha lang siya og 8% out of 15. And then, in the fourth domain, nakakuha siya og 20% out of 30% for a total of 60%. Now, as what I have said, we are going to compare the student's performance against the standard. Okay? We are going to compare student's performance against the standard. Okay? That is criterion or yung criteria na ating sinet for our students. So, based from this result of the exam sa isa ka estudyante, we can say that student 1 failed the exam. Why? It is because he or she did not meet the standard or yung passing score na 75%. 60% is lower than 75%. So that's it. Now, another example here, we have student 2. So sa domain 1, nakakuha siya 23%. Si domain 2, nakakuha siya 25%. Sa domain 3, nakakuha siya 12%. And then sa domain 4, nakakuha siya 27%. For a total of 87%. So if we are going to compare his or her score to our 75% na passing score or yung standard or yung criteria na ating inilagay, that means student 2 passed the exam. Why? It's because he got higher than the passing score or yung standard. Okay? So he exceeded the passing score, he exceeded the standard that was set by the teacher. That means si student 2 nakapasar siya sa exam. Okay? So that's it, class, for norm and criterion reference. And if we are going to distinguish the two, si norm reference or yung normative score is focused on how a student's peers do not perform as well as he or she does. Again, we compare the performance of one student to his or her class. Okay? For criterion reference, we focus, the focus of a criterion reference score is on what a particular student can do. Again, in the criterion reference interpretation or a criterion reference assessment, we compare students' performance against the set standard or criteria na ibinigay ni teacher or sinet ni teacher for that specific competency or skill or ability. Okay, so that's norm and criterion reference interpretation in assessment. So, and that's it. I hope you have learned something from this discussion. And even though it's a little bit ang fast nga discussion, but it's a recorded naman na video. So that means you can watch it all over again if you have any um, kani ang naamoy kalibugan about sa discussion. But for me, it's a very simple lang na discussion because it is the first lesson of um, our subject. So if you have any question or comments about this lesson, our lesson 1 for this subject, you can comment down below your queries, your questions, and your comments. Okay? So that's it, students. I hope you have learned something from this discussion. And thanks for watching. God bless, and please take care always. Goodbye.